your thoughts are. He's a very honourable man.
You told me just before we came in that you first made contact with the British, I think, in 1973, sometime after Bloody Sunday.
Yeah.
Can I just ask you about Bloody Sunday? How that shaped you, what you thought about it, how you would describe it, what label you would put on it now in terms of what happened?
Well, the first Catholic police inspector was Frank Lagan. The first that I ever met him, I'm sure there may have been 3 or 4 others throughout the force. And Lagan was very much a networker. And I had a chip shop down the town of William Street, just at that point where you may have seen the paratroopers came in. And Lagan made it his business to get to know me and became friendly with me. And he
Why you?
I think I was active, really, and he knew it. And I think Special Branch may have had their finger on me.
When you say active, that means a certain thing.
In this
Active service? What was it? Active what?
I was a believer in change in Ireland, and I was not a volunteer, an active volunteer in any shape, form, or fashion. So Lagan, by the way, there was maybe a dozen others, people that Frank Lagan actually got close to, and he was also close to the church, Catholic Church, and others. And one of the tactics that was used in those days, and it's the first time I've seen it, was that the British Army and the RUC would come in and maybe arrest 20 people. And they had a situation where people would go to the parish priest, a very good parish priest who I will not name. It's not fair, he's dead, he's gone. And he and I had many arguments. I said, you're being set up, you're being used. And he really didn't buy that. So what was actually happening is, for the best rule in the world, the parish priest, or not, he wasn't a parish priest, yeah, he was at that time, just thinking. He would go and somebody would come along and say, he would say, I need these guys out. So what actually happened was, he was told, this has gone right up to the very top. It's gone up to the Prime Minister. Your voice is needed. You're being listened to. You're being heard. So as these people would, generally speaking, be innocent in the extreme. So if you're 20 and 18 got out, he would go to the families and say, don't worry, I'll be out at 4 o'clock or so forth. And that was the situation that was happening. And in that, I would say to Lagan was a very spiritual man and a very decent human being. He was completely opposed. He was a policeman, he was an RUC man, and he was never anything else but a policeman and an RUC man. Having said that, he was a decent, honourable human being, and if he could do something to steer somebody from being arrested for a very serious crime, he would do it. So he came to me at the time of the situation and he said, look here, I'm very worried about Bloody Sunday. This situation is breaking down, it's terrible and so forth. And he said the Republicans must not march in that parade. And I said, it's crazy. You cannot stop people from marching in the parade. He says, well, what really is needed there is they must not have guns. And I said, well, they won't have guns anyway. It's not the practice. It doesn't happen that way. And at that point, he said to me, please make sure guns are removed. So I went to
So he knows something at this stage, obviously.
He's
seeing something in the background, obviously.
What he knew at that stage was that the paratroopers were going to do exactly what they did. He didn't know the details of it. Because a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that government works in papers and details and you can find these things out. It doesn't work that way. But he knew
he's reading something out.
He was reading it. And he was making a big effort on it. I went to Dublin, saw Timmy, and Timmy, as usual, the lovely IRA phrase says, leave it with me. And I went to Malik McGurn, who was the official IRA, and he was much more positive. He says, I agree, Brendan, the last thing we want is a gun on that parade. He said, we won't have them anyway. So Malik McGurn gave the instructions that weapons will be removed. So, bottom line, that was totally known. Lagan knew it. He told the British people knew it. Everybody who needed to know it knew it. And you know what happened.
Well, given what happened, so
you're
saying they didn't want to know it? What are you saying?
I'm saying that the British Army at that particular time were overwhelmed born with the desire that if they teach a few sharp lessons, that this will all go well.
It was premeditated.
It was a premeditated miscalculation.
What label would you put on Bloody Sunday night in terms of that activity by the soldiers?
I mean, what label could you put it in? The decision.
Do you call it murder? Do you call it something else?
I would say that, call it murder, of course. I think what happened on that particular occasion was it probably thought maybe 2 or 3 would be enough, to really. I think the evidence is there as well. Niall O'Doherty from Galway University has written extensively of this in the papers. And again, people think, that somebody said to the army, go you in and shoot 3 or 4 or 14 people and teach them a lesson. It doesn't work that way. What they would have said is, whatever steps you have to be taken to restore law and order, you do it. That's how it works. No doubt.
So when you begin your conversations with the British some months later, I think it's 73 you were telling me, how does that happen? Who introduces to you? Who introduces you? Who do you meet? Who are you speaking to? What are they saying to you?
Lagan, as I said earlier, my father died when I was 47, and Lagan became, in a sense, a father figure to me. He never crossed the line. He would never even think of crossing the line. So Lagan said to me one day, look here, there's somebody I'd like to meet. So this guy came in, I say it in the DVD, Michael Oakley came in, he was just superb. He really said, that he's here to understand Catholic thinking, community, nationalism, and all the nice phrases that ever was.
This is Michael Oakley of MI6 at this stage?
Michael Oakley of MI6, but of course I didn't have a clue that he was MI6, nor did I suspect it was MI6, because most of us in Ireland at that time had never heard of MI6, certainly I have. So, Michael and I got on very, very well and talked literally for 4 or 5 hours. And that began the situation. And as a result,
about what?
Everything. About how people were unemployed, how difficult it was to get a job in the north, how what steps could be taken to alter this, how there was discrimination everywhere. All of those type of things that, for the older people in the audience who know, took up all of the media during that period of time. It was always about how basically the nationalist community in the north were suffering, and how, from my point of view anyway, the community in the south couldn't really have cared less. And that was that type of situation. So.
And he clearly talked to you about what was going on the ground, about the IRA?
Absolutely not so. Wasn't that? Michael was much too smooth for that.
So, not interested?
I think it was 2 years up the line before he even got close to that type of situation. No, he was really interested in Irish Catholicism and the good people that were being abused and all the things you know and so forth. No bother. In fact, I'll tell you what, just to remind me what we were talking about.
You have to excuse me for being a bit skeptical.
Yeah. Well, actually, just that you might say it, Dennis Bradley and I opened what's called the House in the Wells for alcoholics, and I must say Dennis Bradley was much more, he was very much the parish priest, not the curate in the long term. Consequently, he was very much into that. I had the chip shop at night. I had to put him out on snowy nights, plus the fact that after my father died, my mother drove herself to death. And you'll always, if you scratch anybody working with addiction, you'll discover